Ready to make your house a home? Whether you're adding a new fireplace, tackling a project, or just needing extra cash, Pathways has a home equity line of credit that helps you use the equity already in your home. Visit pathwayscu.com. That's pathwayscu.com for more information on the home equity line of credit from Pathways Financial Credit Union, your true financial partner. Member NCUA, Equal Housing Lender.
How about we heat things up tonight?
How so?
Get a little fresh, add some steam, sizzle, and spice.
Wait, you're talking about going to Outback again, aren't you? Fire things up at Outback Steakhouse. For a limited time, try our bloomin' fried shrimp or get fresh with our new strawberry salad. Go big with our bone-in ribeye or the filet and grilled shrimp on the barbie. Then cool off with a cucumber crush or peanut koala. Try them all before they're gone. Let's Outback.
Stand by. The vacuum tubes are warming up. This is a special live broadcast right here on Georgia Radio.
Well, this is Wade Peoples, and we want to welcome you here tonight on Georgia Radio to the Georgia Folk and Farm Life Radio Show, our half hour every Tuesday night here with Matt Jolly. And sometimes it's just Matt and me, and we have a great show, but we love having good guests, and we've got a great guest tonight. Tonight we have the Savannah River Keeper, Tanya Bonatavitas. And I'm just so proud of myself that I have learned to say her name, because she has a great name, but it's not a common name. So, Tanya, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, and you say it wonderfully.
Thank you. Well, I know the term river keeper is an old term. It originated, I think, in Europe. The royalty that used to own all the lands and the waters and the fowls and the fishes and things, they had river keepers, and that's an old term. But today, the modern river keeper is a much different critter. Am I right?
I think so. So the modern movement of riverkeeper, waterkeeper was started on the Hudson in the 70s. And it actually was a group of shad fishermen, a couple of Marines, folks that used the water regularly. And they were really angry because they couldn't sell their shad anymore. It's the oldest fisheries in the United States. And the color of the river was whatever General Motors was painting its cars that day. And so they got together and said, we have to do something about this. Some folks said, let's shove mattresses up the intakes, lots of all kinds of nonsense. And there was a writer for the Sports Illustrated that stood up and said, there's this law from the 1800s that says that nobody has the right to pollute. And if they do, citizens can hold them accountable. And using that Rivers and Harbors Act, they held General Electric. They took them to court and over the amount of fish that they were killing. And the first $2,000 settlement, they bought a boat, and it kind of started a movement. And so that's where we were born. There's 360 of us plus worldwide now, about half in the United States.
Tanya, that's amazing. I remember, you're not old enough to remember, but you probably read about it. I don't remember where the river was. It was probably New Jersey or Pennsylvania, in one of the cities up there, but a river caught fire in the 70s. I remember a river caught fire because there was so much pollution in it. And pollution back then, listen, I have been in rivers in Georgia and been when they were really low and walked them, and been there with metal detectors with people that years ago that used to go in the edges of the water rivers, Oconee and Okmulgee, and it's pretty much standard procedure for years to dump things in the river. Even municipal governments and big companies. I've seen where telephone company up there on the Okmulgee dumped thousands of old obsolete telephones in the river. That was just a dumping grounds, and it was nobody thought anything about it. Cash registers, machines, all sorts of things got dumped. Slot machines, when they had big roundups, for gambling, they'd bash. Go out and round up slot machines and whiskey, just whatever. They're prohibited, dump in the river. So it was not just it was industrial pollution on a massive scale, but also personal. People just didn't respect the river. They go fishing or go to the river and just throw everything in. So I can recall when our rivers in Georgia were not as clean as they are now, and that there was not the awareness of what commercial polluters did. And so my favorite river is the Ogeechee, the Great Ogeechee, and it's except for the Westmillican now is Kingfish, and that one I think it's about the only polluter or potential, I won't say polluter, but the only industrial facility right there on the river. But it's a clean river in a lot of ways, but we can always do better. So what do you do day in and day out? What do you do, and who do you work with, and what makes you come every day and want to be a river keeper?
So I'm going to start with that one. And so I think the reason, so I fell into this. I didn't mean to do it. I was working at Augusta University as a teacher's assistant. I was about to graduate, I had graduated. I was about to have my second kid, and I wanted to work full time. And so there was a guy at church that had this thing called River Keeper. So like it was a complete fluke. But I quickly found out that we really help people. There are people that are affected by very serious issues, everything from stormwater that all of a sudden washes their foundation of their house out within 6 minutes, or, located next to fields where they're disposing of dead animals. It's causing, really serious health risks, and seeing how our voice and how we can help amplify and help people that really, really need it. So I think that's what keeps me going, because some of it I've just had enough. Like I've dealt with politicians for long enough that, and just jokers, that it can be a very frustrating world to try and navigate when you're just trying to get people to understand, like, it's your drinking water. Like you've got to take care of your drinking water.
Well, we just naturally take water for granted. Now the day will come when that'll end. That day is in sight, because with increased irrigation and pumping out of the aquifers, and just so many homes being built, and expansion along rivers and river watersheds. And a river is not just they say no man is an island. No river stands alone as a stream of it. Yeah. It is the end all and be all of a watershed that over a large area, and the water drains into the river, and the river is a place where water is concentrated. But before that water gets to the river, it's been a lot of places and done a lot of things and seen a lot of good and bad, has it not?
It has. So for the Savannah River, we start all the way in Nantahala National Forest. So the Chattooga River, if you've seen Deliverance, that's probably its claim to fame. But it's right. It's a wild and scenic, amazing river. So the Tallulah, they form. Excuse me, I'm sorry. They form three big lakes: Hartwell, Russell, and then Clarks Hill. We're in Georgia. It's called Clarks Hill. And then you have this free-flowing river all the way down to Savannah. And one of the things that we spend the most time doing is, one, trying to get South Carolina and Georgia to understand it's the exact same river. Like, it's the exact same watershed. What you do on one side affects the other, but also from a, top to bottom. So what happens in Elberton, Georgia, absolutely affects the water that's available in Hilton Head, South Carolina. And vice versa, like that tail of the Savannah Harbor wags the dog of the lakes and dictates how much water they have to give out during a drought, which we're in right now. So we spend a whole lot of time in this, just 400 miles long, but 10,000 square mile watershed, just trying to connect people, to getting people to understand, hey, this person is affected by how you're doing this. And especially when you're talking about the two states, they're better than they've ever been before. But, whoa, it's difficult to get people to look. No states have ever been able to really be friends when it comes to sharing a river. Georgia, Alabama, Florida, Carolina, it doesn't, and it's not any state. It's not just Georgia and her sister states. When a stream flows is the boundary between states. It seems to it's almost like a incitement to feud. It's something to fight over, and. So I see that with the Savannah River, the ports authorities down there in Savannah, South Carolina would like to have a piece of the action of the port facilities, and Georgia's got a great port facility, and
and one man's trash is another man's treasure. I say a great port facility, but if you love the river, you say, oh, well, it does a lot of damage too. And I go there almost most days. I go to International Paper Mill in Garden City there on the river at Savannah, and the unloading is right along the riverbank. Literally. Yep. And I watch that river. I've watched it for years. Every day I go there most days, and I see that Savannah River, and I see all the things that go up and down it, natural and unnatural. And I look at that river and I think, it's basically unchanged in a lot of ways from 400 years ago, but it's changed massively in ways we don't really see. Like I have friends at the old dredge, Hampton Roads. I love that, and I know I love the old dredge, but I know it does damage too. But it's necessary for jobs and commercial and economic development. So, where do you fall on the economic activities that affect the river?
So the river supports about 4.1 million people a day. Excuse me, I'm sorry, I said that backwards. 1.4 million throughout the 100-mile stretch, including a number. There's 48 industrial and municipal outfalls and intakes. Each one of those represents an ability of a community to make money off of that river, whether it be the municipality, the drinking water, or the industry that they're using, because every industry uses water. They just do, most of them massively. And so every piece of that pie is directly, aligned with the economic viability of that community. So there is a happy medium. It is a very large river, and it can handle quite a bit, but it has to be done carefully. And so, the Savannah Harbor is always going to want to be the number one harbor, but they can't. They're not. They're going to reach a level where they can maintain, and that's great. It will continue to be a very viable port in perpetuity. There's no reason it shouldn't be, but they have to do that in a way that doesn't really negatively impact other communities' ability to use that same resource. And so and that includes the animals, right? Because they have to exist too. But you're right. The river is the most rural, in my opinion, of any of the Ogeechee has far more houses on it. Little creek. It's a little creek. I love it, but it is also a creek.
Yeah.
But it's between Augusta and Savannah, it's very rural, and it is very even the culture is still connected to the river. In Sylvania and Allendale, people go out on the sandbars to hang out on the weekend. So it's about making sure that everybody is able to thrive, but doing so in a way that's equitable as much as possible.
Tanya, I'm somewhat of a conservative, probably more so than you are. I don't really know but my generation, and being an old white man, have a certain political people expect you to have it, and I'm true to form. I don't vary much, but yep. I do as I get older appreciate that we did a lot of damage years ago and still do. But I've noticed over the years that, like I get just making this up, just the first 95% of addressing pollution and destruction of habitat and waterways and the lands, addressing that, the first 95% is fairly easy. A lot of people can do a little and make a big difference, and we say, well, this is a lot better. But then when we get into that last 5% is where we have to become very restrictive, and government has to get involved with some tighter regulations, and usually that last 5 or 10% effort is where the trouble starts. And there are those that, say, I love the river, but it's, we've got to use it for this and that. It's like with farmers with irrigation, we can't grow the food to feed y'all if we can't drill wells and pump from the aquifer. And we can't access waterways for drawing water and things. And municipalities need water. So that's where a lot of people differ. That last little percent there, sometimes I'm sure you get accused of being going maybe over. I don't know this, but I just would assume going overboard in favor of conservation and efforts. And how do you justify that last final effort that sometimes is painful to put in effect?
So there's a couple of answers to that, and I think you're absolutely right, and it's exactly what I was saying. Is you have to be willing to have negotiation and conversations and bring people to the table so that the farmer has what they need, and they're doing so in a wise way, right? So just mainlining, raw water out without proper spigot heads that are conservation minded is probably not the best approach. So it's about making sure that they're using the best that they can and helping them provide, access to the programs that are available to help them get there. But also making sure that those municipalities who have decided that they want to grow unchecked, and they just get a blank check, understand, no, I'm sorry, you can't do that. That's not, you're not setting anybody up for success. So there has to be some of those hard conversations. You can't do it in a way that makes it so that you, I think you're winning when everybody's slightly grumbly, as weird as that sounds. But, that's a piece of it. And also having thick skin. People call me all kinds of things. But I think the one thing that they don't do is second guess my commitment to trying to make sure that everybody has equitable access to the river. I will always err on, I don't want extra pollution. That's just, I don't want air pollution. I don't want water pollution.
I think anybody that has reached a state of maturity and gained a little wisdom would agree with that. Listen, Tanya, we're at a little over the halfway mark, and we're going to go for the halfway break, the midpoint break in the show, and hear from our great sponsor, Meeks Brothers Cattle, and we'll be right back. Just hold on. Hi, this is Wade Peebles from Georgia Folk and Farm Life Radio. I'm here to tell you about Meeks Brothers Cattle Company, and you don't have to worry about supply chain issues or where your beef comes from. Do what I do and call Meeks Brothers Cattle Company today. You can get a whole, half, a quarter, any amount of beef you want. Good quality beef, vacuum packed, lasts up to 3 years in your freezer. It's grass-fed, grain finished, made to order. Visit Meeks Brothers Cattle Company on Facebook today and tell them Brother Wade sent you. And that's Meeks Brothers Cattle Company. Thank you.
I know you can hear me, and so can your customers. Lots of people don't take kids seriously. Well, listen up. Advertising on Georgia Radio is seriously easy and affordable. Visit georgiaradio.com/advertise, or better yet, call the station. So let's talk. Your customers are listening, and so is my mom. Hi, Mom.
How about we heat things up tonight?
How so?
Get a little fresh, add some steam, sizzle, and spice.
Wait, you're talking about going to Outback again, aren't you? Fire things up at Outback Steakhouse. For a limited time, try our bloomin' fried shrimp or get fresh with our new strawberry salad. Go big with our bone-in ribeye or the filet and grilled shrimp on the barbie. Then cool off with a cucumber crush or peanut koala. Try them all before they're gone. Let's Outback.
Take charge of your purchases with a Cashback Rewards credit card from Pathways Financial Credit Union. Make purchases anywhere, anytime, and get 1.5% cash back for each dollar you spend. That's right, 1.5% cash back for each dollar you spend. Visit pathwayscu.com. That's pathwayscu.com to find out more about the Cashback Rewards credit card from Pathways. Pathways Financial Credit Union, your true financial partner. Member NCUA, Equal Housing Lender.
All the best country.
Georgia Radio. Everywhere you go.
Well, welcome back. This is Wade here with Matt Jolly on Georgia Radio on the Georgia Folk and Farm Life Radio show that each Tuesday night, and all past and present episodes available on podcast. Just go get the My Georgia Radio app and
mash the button. I really am here. Button. I've just been sitting here listening to Tanya.
This is
it's
Tanya,
fascinating tonight.
You know, we're not. Say, for instance, aren't you glad that you aren't the Colorado River keeper?
Very much so. Out west, I've learned a lot about, like, I'm just going to call it like I see it. Like, we in the South and on the eastern side of the country are much more equitable in the way we share our water than the West. The West does this weird, like, I was here first, and so nobody else can play in my sandbox, which is devastating, right? So that's why nobody has any water. And we don't play that game here.
When you have Nevada and California cities and others drawing enormous amounts of water out of a poor Colorado River, it's a beautiful. It's not infinite in its supply. There's a day of reckoning, and we're not in that place. But I guess you and the others like you that love our land, our South, and our waterways and our culture and our way of life see the potential impact of water being in short supply, quality, clean water in short supply, let me say, not necessarily water in short supply, but you are the bellwether. You're saying you're giving out a warning. And are people listening? Do the municipalities and the government agencies, and I know some are committed, but there are government agencies that are committed to helping with Euro's efforts, and there's others that want to fight you, I'm sure, on the local level. So what do you do on an average day? What does a river keeper, you're not the only river keeper, but you're the major one here in our area. What does a river keeper do on an average day? You have to tilt at windmills and get your joust with the local officials, or what do you do?
Let's see. So what did I do today? So I started this morning with a staff meeting, catching everybody up. I have a Veterans for Clean Water program. They go out and all of our samples are collected by veterans. It's a really cool program. Worked on our disc golf course. So we have 14 acres. It's an old car parts junkyard that we turned into it's our office and also an active recreation zone. It's in downtown Augusta. And it's part of this revitalization of about a mile of riverfront. I then met with a planner that I'm trying to hire to work on Effingham and Chatham County, Savannah's drinking water intake problem. So all the wetlands that have protected the city of Savannah's drinking water, which is in Effingham County, are now turning into warehouses very quickly. The entire region, very quickly. And the region itself hasn't done the proper master planning, and it's really kind of scary. Like, I think it's from a storm, if Savannah ever gets a hurricane again, and it's going to, I'm afraid that with the amount of development and the way we're doing it, it's going to cause some big issues, not to mention the city's drinking water.
Right. I noticed, talking about the warehouses, we log, and I know I'm an evil logger, but we've cut out tracks in Savannah, Richmond Hill, all around there, small areas to build these developments for housing developments and warehouses. Yeah. And I come in on 80 into Savannah East. That's where I go. I don't go 16. And out at Blixton, where 280 runs in, and that area before you get there, the Warnell property on the left, different. But there was huge tracts of timberland and farmland. There's nothing out there. It's low ground, not suitable really for housing. And so I thought it would be like that forever. Well, they a while back, I saw them cutting a right-of-way along the highway from Blixton back towards Brooklyn that way. And I thought, what is that? And then I saw water lines, and then I said, putting in a water tower out here at a pumping station. And I said, this is not good. What are they doing it for? Then I saw clearing all those huge tracts there on either side of 80 and back towards Eldora Road back there. And so they're putting in, they're just doing massive construction. They're building warehouses out there, and overall 280 back towards Pembroke on that end. And it's just everywhere, and there's no end in sight. The Jimmy Lopes Parkway has an amazing number of warehouses on little feeder roads that feed into it. So that is a huge thing, is development and unrestricted development. I understand the port's growing by leaps and bounds, and warehousing is a big deal. But it does seem to be, I'm a free market guy, but I hate to see all that land go into development.
Well, so one of the parts about it that's the most alarming, or the part that scares me, is upland, right? So dry land is dry land. But that's not where the warehouses are being put. The warehouses are instead, they're getting core permits to fill in what are, wetlands. And wetlands are very important from a stormwater aspect. And so the more you get rid of those, you're gutting the community's ability to regulate its stormwater, which is how people flood out. That's why, oftentimes you think about flooding, you think about people that live along a river. It's very rarely, the river has to be flooding very significantly to get the folks right next to it. It's actually all the creeks that flood into the river. That's where all the real flooding happens. And when you do that kind of development, it's going to be the next 100-year, and I say that in quotations because a 100-year flood happens every 20 years now. But that's what we build to. So that next 20-year, which is 100-year event, all of a sudden you have water in your living room, and we should have known better. Like we do know better, but it's not. We're not planning together in a way that gets us there. And so that's a big thing that the keepers are about to embark on. We're working with Ogeechee and 100 Miles just to try to get because. These cities and counties don't really get along that well.
I know that to be true. Listen, Tanya, let's back up the river. Now, I wrote a while back an article about the river and that both ends of Augusta is not the upper end of the river, but as far as most people's really thinking the river, it is. It starts at Augusta and ends at Savannah, which is not so, but for all practical purposes for commercial development, it does. And Augusta sees it as theirs, and Savannah sees it as theirs, and it gets, the lock and dam thing. The river was modified many years ago, canals and locks and dams things. When there was riverboat and barge traffic on the rivers, modifications were made. Now that era has ended, and there are no longer riverboats and barges traffic on Savannah River. The infrastructure around Augusta that helped keep the water, they now want to tear that out, and people are for it. Some are against it. Where do you fall on the upcoming possible changes in Augusta, and what would you advocate?
Okay, so it is a perfect story of politics gone crazy. So there's an old lock and dam. It does hold the water higher in Augusta. People really like that level. It wasn't. The reason the dam was built was for barge traffic. It hasn't been there yet a long time ago, but people built their houses and they want that level. And so part of the harbor deepening is getting fish past the lock and dam. There for many, many years there have been conversations how to do that. The Corps has put a proposal forward that's a mountain of rock, essentially, where the dam is. And so it holds the water higher. And then during flood events, it's not mechanized in the same way. The city and South Carolina want the dam fixed, and they don't care about the fish. We are once again in the middle. We have been advocating for many years that there is a project. If you modify the Corps' plan and add a series of pneumatic gates on top of them, and actually use the park to create a channel through it, you can make a huge recreational opportunity with a whitewater course and create fish passage and keep the water higher. So we think it's a perfect example of how you can use, it doesn't make sense to keep on to 1936 technology nowadays. That's silly. You're not driving a 1936 car. So There's no reason you need to fix and come up with a passage that is just rehabbing that structure. So we're in the middle.
Well, I know that there's many players. There's the Augusta and North Augusta and the states of South Carolina and Georgia and the Corps of Engineers and those who live along and on property along the river in that area, and boaters and recreation people, fishermen. There's so many people with a dog in that fight that it's going to stay a fight and probably never be settled to everyone. It will never be settled to everyone's satisfaction. But I hope you get your voice in there and listen. Tanya, I hate that we've run out of time.
I've got a question for Wade.
Okay, go ahead.
I have one quick question. She mentioned this veterans program that goes out and collects water samples, and I know that I'm assuming you're not a biologist, but more on the administrative side. I have a question for you that came up that I heard at a community event just the other day, and I don't know the answer to this. We have, and I'll use ours as an example. We have a a stream, a creek that runs through our property, and I've occasionally gone out if we're going to have a party or something like that, and I know the kids are going to swim in it. I'll test it for, E. coli or something like that. And after a big rain, there's always more of it than normal.
Yep.
What are you looking for on a creek? I know there's a few cattle upstream of us, but what's an acceptable level? What are you looking for when you go out and you test this kind of stuff? And I'm guessing agriculture here in Georgia plays a big part of this. That's why I bring this up.
Yeah, so 200 is the E. coli count that you usually want to be under on a chronic level. When you have a big rain event, pretty much consistently E. coli goes up. Cow fields can be, cow pastures can certainly be sources. Septic tanks can be huge sources. When our guys go out, we actually collect not only the basic, like some E. coli, we do temperature, pH, and then situational data. So we'll try and look around and say, hey, what color is the water today? Is it different than normal? How's the temperature look? Has it rained in the last 24 hours? And so we're actually working on trying to put a holistic picture together. But they do train volunteers. So we have an active Adopt a Stream program where we'll train volunteers to go out, collect samples, and then help provide data back, because you don't have to have graduated with a biology or a chemistry degree to do citizen science. Citizen science is the only way we're really going to be able to tell true pictures, because there's just not the funding to do every breadth of every stream or creek that needs to be covered. So I'd love to talk to you about helping you get even more set up.
Wade, you want to go be citizen scientist? I bet we could recruit Susan Exley. And maybe we could get Miss Ruth, and we could.
Miss Ruth, yes.
Listen,
you wouldn't want to tick them off and mess their waterways.
No, but I could screw up a scientific study in no time, and I've done. I thought the first time I did that, I thought the whole thing was just going to blow up. I mean, it was. But our creek's very beautiful and it's clear.
Set,
yeah, I didn't know what I was doing, but anyway, it's
Tanya,
very clear. So thank you, Tanya.
We are about out of time, but I want to listen. There's one topic that related to this I want to get into, and I want to find somebody that can really talk about it. And if you know enough about it, I'd like to have you back on. Was the changes that were made not too long ago, where livestock was used to could go and drink water and go through and trample streams and waterways, and now the government made people fence off those waterways, and you can't water cattle in waterways. You have to have a well for them, and that change how is that been really been as beneficial as was hoped, and could you come back later and talk to us about that?
I would be happy to, and I might even be able to help you find some other folks. But I think in general, it has been good. I don't think the enforcement is super stellar. I will have to look at the funding that's available. I know that there's often, I see a lot of 319 and other projects specifically looking at helping farmers pull it off. So I feel like it's a program that is probably, in wording looks good, but the implementation probably needs more fun. I don't know what it needs, but it could use some help.
All right. Well, listen, thank you for being with us tonight, Tanya, and I hope to have you again. And God bless you, and keep doing the great job and help take care of Georgia's waterways. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I had a great time.
All right, Wade.
Our pleasure.
We're gonna go get some lab coats, and I'll see you on the river. All right.
We'll look like two minions out there.
That's right. I'll even wear a scuba diving mask. How about that? There you go. Thanks, Tanya. Bye.
Thank you.
All the best country.
Georgia Radio. Everywhere you go.
Ready to make your house a home? Whether you're adding a new fireplace, tackling a project, or just needing extra cash, Pathways has a home equity line of credit that helps you use the equity already in your home. Visit pathwayscu.com. That's pathwayscu.com for more information on the home equity line of credit from Pathways Financial Credit Union, your true financial partner. Member NCUA, Equal Housing Lender.
How about we heat things up tonight?
How so?
Get a little fresh, add some steam, sizzle, and spice.
Wait, you're talking about going to Outback again, aren't you? Fire things up at Outback Steakhouse. For a limited time, try our bloomin' fried shrimp or get fresh with our new strawberry salad. Go big with our bone-in ribeye or the filet and grilled shrimp on the barbie. Then cool off with a cucumber crush or peanut koala. Try them all before they're gone. Let's Outback.